Show with Uncle Bill. Welcome to all of our YouTube viewers out there. Hopefully, I really got to admit, oh, by the way, welcome to our studio audience out there. Thank you for being so kind and considerate this morning. They brought donuts in for me this morning, and it was absolutely great. Anyway, I want to say to our YouTube listeners out there that we are starting to pick up our numbers, and hopefully we'll get better and better as we go along here with our YouTube broadcast. Hoping some big producer might see one of our shows and pick us up and decide to make us. I'm looking for the day that we go viral. Just one time. I want to be able to say, I went viral, because I guess that's the only time that it means anything, is if your video goes viral. Otherwise, you're nobody. 72 degrees in Belvedere under overcast skies this morning. Winds are out of the east-northeast at 6 miles per hour, starting off with 76% humidity. And it's going to be one of those picture-perfect days here in Belvedere, Illinois, with the temperatures topping out at around 77 degrees today. I talked to my sister over the weekend out in Omaha, and I was sitting on my deck, my brand new deck, by the way. And for those that are not on Facebook with me, we just completed putting a new deck on the back of our condo. We actually didn't build the entire deck. We just replaced the floorboards and a new railing. And boy, it's nice. It's that stuff that it's flex material. It's a composite, so it's maintenance free. Other than I have to wash it or keep it clean, but it's not going to fade or be damaged and fade, or have to be stained and all that kind of stuff. And then bright red big umbrella. Oh, it was beautiful out. Good morning, Craig. Let's see. Elizabeth said, I see you. Miss Liz, you haven't answered my question. Have you been flying lately? I need to know. But anyway, I was sitting out talking to my sister. Beautiful day. It was only 72 degrees, and we had a light breeze blowing across, so it was absolutely picture-perfect day. And my sister Mary out in Omaha says, my gosh, it's 94 degrees here. And it was horrible. And I just smiled and said, the life of living in Illinois. So anyway, today's going to be another one of those days, just a slightly warmer than the other day, 77 degrees under partly cloudy skies. So there will be some sunshine today, and 10% chance of precipitation. So that's out of the question for today. However, there is still flooding in the area because of the rains that we've been having. And we don't look for any rain until towards the end of the week. So, but yet, folks, just as a reminder, if you have flooding in your area or your rivers or streams are up, stay off of them, because when you get seasons like this, the waters are running fast. And of course, I don't need to tell you about the story out in Arizona where a 6-foot wall of water come cascading down the mountain, and it took the lives of 9 people in one family, swept away a lot of people, and in one of those tragic events out in Arizona. So they've got it bad out there, and all I can say is our hearts go out to those people. Well, we have a lot of interesting things in the news today, and we'll get to all of that and more right after this.
Like a child you ignore, knows his father. I think my way is better, and I start walking down the road, not knowing where it's gonna lead. Like stubborn sheep I tend to wander, trying to find that greener pasture, when everything I'd ever want was underneath my feet. You always know, you always know, you always know what's best for me. Sometimes it's just not clear to me what on earth you're doing, but I'm learning I can trust you when nothing makes sense to me. Sometimes it's just not clear to me what on earth you're doing, but I'm learning I can trust you when nothing makes sense to me. Oh, you always know, you always know, you always know what's best for me. Like a good father, you want to see me prosper. You like to see me doing well, doing well. Like a good mother, you like to see me prosper. You like to see me doing well, doing well. Your thoughts are higher, your ways are so much greater, so I can trust you through it all, through it all. Your thoughts are higher, your ways are so much greater, so I can trust you through it all, through it all. You always know, you always know, you always know what's best for me. You always know, you always know, you always know what's best for me, what's best for me, what's best for me.
Uncle Bill would like to apologize in advance for whatever he may say tomorrow. The Morning Show with Uncle Bill on BNNS Radio. Want to know what's going on in Belvedere, Illinois, or around the world? Then tune to BNNSradio.com on your computer or your mobile device and give us a listen. That's BNNSradio.com.
Rattle, rattle, thunder, clatter, chug, chug, chug. If this is how your car is sounding, you need to call 815-544-0537. That's right, my friends. Belvedere Auto Clinic, located 301 West Locust Street, Belvedere, Illinois. Call and ask for Tom. He can make your car run like new. That's right. Belvedere's best-kept little secret is Belvedere Auto Clinic. You need to call today, 815-544-0537. Come on, do it now. That's one. We're back here live in our studios, and that is one of our sponsors and faithful followers of BNNS Radio, and that's Tom down there at Belvedere Auto Clinic, along with our other sponsors. and we'll get to those a little bit later in the show. But I just want to say good morning to Tom and the guys down at Belvedere Auto Clinic, those guys that can make your car run like new. You need to take your car down there and let them, if you're having a problem with your vehicle, and, you know, I haven't seen Tom send a car out of his shop unfixed. I don't ever remember him not doing that, because he always finds a way to fix it. It might be baling wire, it might be duct tape, it might be chewing gum, but whatever it is, he'll fix it and make it run like new. No, I'm kidding you. He always puts brand new stuff in the car, and he uses quality parts and materials. I've run parts. I've gone for things. I know he runs and uses quality parts. None of this secondhand junkyard stuff. It's all fresh, new, and will last probably the life of your car. So join Tom down there at Belvedere Auto Clinic. And if you'd like to be a sponsor of the morning show with Uncle Bill, you can do so too, just simply by sending us an email to bnnsradio@gmail.com. and tell us you're interested in being a part of our show by sponsoring or supporting our radio station, and we'll give you all the details if you send us an email and let us know. We've got people on Twitter that really like our show and have picked us up and offered their resources and things of that nature. So the word's getting out about Uncle Bill and the crew down here at BNNS Radio. If you want to be a part of this show, give us a call at 815-544-2967, 815-544-2967. We'll put you live on the air, or if you don't want to be on the air, just give us a call anyway, ask your questions, and we will do that. Or you can jump in the chat box with the rest of the crew, and Perry, Peggy, and Elizabeth are all in there in the chat box just waiting to chat with you. And speaking of the crew,
Big D, co-host on the morning show with Uncle Bill, right here on BNNS Radio. You'll wonder how you ever got along without him.
Good morning, Uncle Bill.
Good morning, Big D. How you are?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm not too bad, actually, for a Monday morning. Yesterday was a bummer, but today I'm doing pretty good today.
Well, good.
And the wife is recovering well from her eye surgery last week, so we're on a roll.
Well, you're just running fat and happy now, aren't you?
Well, I don't know about that, but
I mean,
okay.
I mean, he has lunch with Trump. He's wealthy. He does this because he loves it. Got a great wife.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because Trump did stop in here over the weekend. And he told me it was okay for us to talk about him.
I don't give a flip. I'm going to talk about him anyway.
I didn't say we can't. I said he told us it was okay.
I said, I know, and I said I don't care. I was going to talk about him anyway.
Well, I'm not. Everybody else is talking about him. Why should I?
I mean, here's a guy, you may not agree with his politics, but at least he's not like Nancy Pelosi. Well, there's things we say to get elected, and then there's the reality of what we do.
Yeah.
You know, and people go, oh my God, she's such a great woman. She's a con artist. She's a con artist with dementia right now.
I was just going to say, and she's also got dementia or Alzheimer's, one or the other. Also joining us this morning is part of our crack research team, and that is Craig out there in Omaha. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Fit as a fiddle.
Fit as a fiddle. Where did that phrase come from?
I couldn't tell you. I was going to try to come up with something clever to say and couldn't.
I mean, when you think about it, you think about some of these catchphrases that they use to describe your feelings and so forth. What is a fit fiddle? I mean, where did some... you're going to have to look that one up, because I can't figure out. I'm as fit as a fiddle. Does that mean that the fiddle fits under your chin just right or something? I don't know. Maybe crack research analyst Miss Liz, who's also in here this morning, maybe she knows.
It means you're in tune.
Oh, I see.
That's very good.
Thank you.
And the one that gets me is finer than frog hair.
Ooh, frogs don't have hair.
Did we used to... Now, wait a minute. Did we used to have a prehistoric woolly mammoth frog at one time?
Probably. Ask my daughter. She would know.
You probably got one.
Out here, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, Miss Liz has got one. I know she's got one somewhere.
You know, Bill...
That's a lizard.
By the way, how's the dragon doing?
Oh, he's fat and happy.
How big is he now?
I mean, from the tip of my finger to probably just above my elbow crease.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
He's not going to get no bigger. He's a big boy.
Yeah, wow. Huh.
That's
why... Miss Liz, while I got you on the line here, the reason that I was asking you if you have been flying lately... you have not. You promised me you haven't been flying.
I plead the fifth.
Well, a person. The reason I brought this up is because I found this interesting story that a person who passed gas on an American airline plane on Sunday forced all passengers off of the jet.
I heard something about that. It made me laugh.
And that wasn't you.
I plead the fifth.
That'll teach them to serve Mexican in an in-flight meal.
They look bored, so
The incident happened when passengers on the flight became ill with nausea and headaches.
Ooh, that was bad.
It must have been. The flight, which was not identified by RDU officials, landed at the airport around 4 p.m. and the incident was reported. All the passengers were taken off the plane, and after the incident was investigated, it was determined that a passenger passed gas.
That was bad.
Here on Bubba Gump Airlines.
This is just proof. This is where you get the finest of news that nobody else reports.
Oh my God, they had boiled cabbage on the side dish.
Someone loaded up on Taco Bell before the flight.
American airline officials Sunday night said that the plane did have an odor issue, but denied it was because of passed gas.
I bet you someone deliberately did it.
I don't know.
It's a terroristic threat, though, isn't it? Maybe?
That could be. They didn't say, they didn't know which path. Nobody would admit it. So.
If it had been me, I would have been like, it was me.
Well, they could have easily found out he was the one pushing and shoving to get off the aircraft the fastest and headed straight for the restroom. So.
Look for the person with 4 passed out people around him.
Can you imagine if he'd gone into the actual the plane bathroom and then went in, did what he had to do, came out, and it just kind of followed? So, would have been no win.
Yeah, it could have been a drifter.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, we've now gone from elevators to buses to airplanes.
Yep. Not to mention your own vehicle. Why is it nobody ever complains when somebody passes gas in their car?
Because you can roll the window. You can roll the windows down.
Oh.
No, that's a rule in my car. You do not do that. And if you do, I really come down on you.
Oh, Lord.
Or you got the drivers that lock down the car and then they do it and then everybody suffers.
Yeah, you turn off the air conditioner, roll up the windows, and never mind. All right, we're going to go from funny to serious because I'm going to start something this morning that's not going to set well with a lot of people because I really don't know how to approach this story. I approach it partially with sadness because a young lady's life was tragically taken, which is sad, but it brings up another point that I want to talk about. Well, let me just read you the article and then we'll discuss it in the drift of what I'm trying to get across. The last message, just a minute. Excuse me, I had to cough. The last message sent by a 14-year-old Madison Coe before she was electrocuted in the bathtub shows the tragic mistake that killed her. When you use an extension cord so you can plug your phone in while you're in the bath, the teen from Lovington, New Mexico, wrote to a friend, sending a picture of the cord connection on top of a towel. But despite the precautions that Madison took, she was apparently unaware that there was some fraying on part of the cord, according to NBC 12 News. Officials say she was killed after touching a frayed section while she was in the water. Investigators believe her phone was never immersed in the water. Now, before I go on with the rest of the story, my first question is what parent would post something as tragic as this about their child upon social media? That's my first dumb question, I guess. According to U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission and the Lovington Police Department, the cord had been plugged into a non-grounded outlet with no circuit interrupted safety mechanism. Family members released the final message to help raise awareness of the danger. Her father, who is a firefighter and EMT, says that Madison often took her phone into the bathroom to listen to music while she was in the tub. Whenever I talked to Madison about it, she said, "Dad, it's outside the tub." Now, I don't know about you folks, but this whole story kind of disturbs me. Number one, if your dad is an EMT and a firefighter, he knows the dangers of electronics and water. And why would you allow your child to take an electronic device in? Now, I admit a cell phone is not something that's usually plugged into the wall while you're using it, but in this case it was. But who is the master of the family? Madison at 14 years of age or Daddy?
Madison.
Okay. Father is a firefighter and EMT. Doesn't he realize that city code requires a
GFI.
Thank you. I was trying to
Ground
remember.
fault interrupter.
GFI outlet at any place that you're near water, and I forget the footage, within so many feet of water, you are supposed to have a GFI. Why didn't he change out his circuits in the house to GFI products?
Well, it only has to be in the bathroom, the kitchen, and the basement, and I'm not sure about the garage.
If you're around water, like you say, in a bathroom. Now, bathrooms contain water, toilets, sinks, bathtubs, showers.
Now, when I took my electrical part in college, you had to have a GFI if it was within, I want to say, 6 feet of water. They're thinking that total arm's length, but I believe that has been amended since, well, that was 25 years ago. I want to say that it's 10 feet now.
Well, irregardless, Daddy should have taken charge and said, Madison, you do not need your phone in the bathtub. You're in there for one purpose, and that is to take a bath, and that's what you're there for, so do it and get out, whatever. I don't know.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Do I have a choice?
I was a fireman for almost 30 years. I've never heard that rule.
What?
About GFIs.
Oh, yeah. That's a big thing.
I
when you have
worked.
a house inspected.
I worked next to...
That is not a state or a local code. That is a U.S. fire code.
I have never, and I was in the fire marshal's office. I never heard that.
It's not fire. That's an electrical code.
Right.
I'm just saying, this is the first time I've heard. I mean, I knew that ground fault GFIs had to be like around pools, hot tubs, in restaurants, around kitchen sinks and stuff. But I've never heard this in a house.
Now there's an exception.
Wait a minute. Are you saying houses don't have sinks and tubs?
No, I'm just saying I never heard this before until today.
What dark ages are you living in?
Dude, I'm telling you, I've never heard of it.
Didn't you have anything to do with inspecting new homes or new construction?
No, sir. That was building department.
Yeah, that's a building inspector does that, Bill.
Most of what fire department personnel are, businesses, high-rises, things like that.
Talking about EMTs, know the fact that electricity and GFIs are required in bathrooms that can cause electrical.
Bill, I'm sorry, I can show you 100 EMTs right now that probably never heard of it. We know you don't take a hairdryer into the shower.
Same thing.
But we've never heard this rule where you've got to have a GFI in the bathroom.
Why don't you take a hairdryer into the shower?
Because your hair never gets dry. It's a waste of time.
You know what a GFI is, though, right, Big D?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
You have GFIs in your home?
I believe I've got 2 of them in the house.
And where are they located?
I can tell you right now they're not located in the bathroom.
Then you're in violation of code.
Building department.
I can guarantee that.
That's
but
very
why,
sad, Big D, because they're cheap and they're easy to put in.
But why do building inspectors certify homes, and then we find out, hey, we haven't got one in our house?
Because
the building inspector's not doing his job then.
People in the South can't read.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah, but see,
if a building inspector certifies a house and there's no GFIs in the kitchen, in the bathroom, he's liable.
Well, then I have never. I can go to 100 houses right now, and I've never seen one.
Older houses do not have them.
This is Hurd County.
If they've been sold in the last 20 years and been inspected, I know now banks require houses to be inspected before they'll issue the loan. But when I bought my house, that was not the requirement.
I remember our city council passing the new updated building code, and that was part of one of the universal or whatever they call U.S. code changes that was included in part of the contract or the new codes for building new homes and stuff. You had to follow that rule, and you had to have the GFI within the approved distance, which I'm like Craig, I don't remember if it's 10 or 6 feet.
Now, there is an exception to that that's important. If you're putting outlets in a kitchen, you're allowed one outlet. That refrigerator, the dishwasher, those things, you're allowed to have outlets that are not GFI, and the reason is when they first start up, they will give an electrical surge, and that surge will often trip GFIs. So you're allowed to have outlets, a 20 amp outlet that is dedicated specifically to those devices.
Right, and if you look in most electrical boxes, you'll have a circuit that's marked refrigerator.
And nowadays, they're putting GFIs on entire circuits. You can buy a GFI to put in your panel, your electrical panel, that will protect an entire circuit. When I wired I put an addition in 25 by 30, and I wired it, and all of the outlets in my living room are protected by one GFI.
I was just going to say, excuse me, I was using an outdoor electrical outlet one day, and I couldn't.
Which should be GFI.
What?
That is supposed to be a GFI outlet.
I could not get any power out of. We had an electrical strike, and it took out some things in the house, took out a TV and a couple other things. And one day I was outside, needed power from an outside circuit, and I couldn't get them to work. And none of my outside circuits would work. I went around, checked them all, and I couldn't figure out. And I went downstairs, couldn't find any blown or thrown circuit breakers in the circuit box. And I finally ended up calling my friend, who is an electrician, and he happened to be in the area, and he drove by, and he said that we had a GFI somewhere that was thrown. And we had a hard time finding it. Finally found that in the garage, next to the extra refrigerator we have, but in the garage, the GFI was thrown. And we pressed the button, and then my outside outlets. So all of my outside outlets are worked, or like you said, Craig, worked off of one GFI. And personally, I don't know why they don't put GFIs throughout the entire house as a protective measure. But
can I explain GFIs for those that don't know what they are?
Sure.
They're a ground fault interrupter. It's a regular, you can use them, a regular duplex outlet like you have throughout your house. But what they do is they measure an electrical imbalance of anything that's on the circuit, which is why when I said the refrigerator, dishwasher, things that have an electric motor on them, they will often trip GFIs because they get that, as I said, they get that power surge, and the GFIs see that as a imbalance in the circuit. So the GFIs, as cheap as they are, could be throughout the house, but the ones that protect my living room, Debbie can plug her vacuum cleaner in and it does not trip the circuit. Some vacuum cleaners will do it, and they'll do just as Bill explained. They'll kill the power in the other outlets. My son bought a house my youngest son bought a house, and he lost all the power in his garage. And I went over there, asked him what happened, and we got to looking, and whoever wired it wired the garage through the GFI in his laundry room. The problem with them being in a garage is garages often have, you will often use things that have electric motors in them. GFIs measure the imbalance in the circuit so precisely that you can take a hairdryer, turn it on, throw it in, you can put your hand in the water, throw that hairdryer with the other hand, you can put them in that same water, and you will not be shocked because it will trip that fast. Now, I want to say, don't do that, because it's entirely possible that the GFI is a mechanical device, that it could break. You know, it could be faulty. So don't do that. But
yeah,
that's the theory. Do what?
Don't try this at home.
No. But that's what they tell us in school, that they trip that fast that it will not cause you, should not cause you any problem.
Well, two comments. When our bathroom in the I want to say the household bathroom, because that's the one when we have guests over and so on and so forth, that's the bathroom they use. If that bathroom goes out, or one of the circuits in the kitchen goes out, we have to reset the GFI in our bathroom off of our master bathroom. We had a hard time finding that out. Now, I don't understand GFI. I understand the purpose of exactly what you explained about GFIs. What I don't understand is how they tie in together with other parts of the house. Because like I said, when some of our circuits go out, we generally can trace it back to some reason the GFI in our master bedroom bathroom is the one that's caused the outage.
It's simply, in older houses, mine was built in 53, and it was built by several brothers that got together and built houses around their mother. So it was not wired by a real electrician. A licensed electrician. It was a bunch of guys that got together. Well, when you find houses that are built like that, you can find some pretty creative ways that they wire houses. That a bedroom can be on the same circuit as a living room on the other side of the house. They just happen to grab whatever wire comes through. When you lay out the like when I built my addition, I counted how many outlets. You're allowed so many outlets on one circuit.
Right.
And there's houses that they just don't do that. You cannot count on, okay, all of the outlets for this living room are going to be on one circuit. So that explains exactly what you said, why you can't figure out why, if a GFI trips, why are you losing all these outlets in a totally unrelated room? And that's because whoever wired it didn't wire it the way they should have. Now, yours is a newer condo. I'm amazed that it's like that.
Well, we have found that in several circumstances where I've had the electrician over and they've had things wired incorrectly. So that does not surprise me. And other things that we have found does not surprise me either. All right, moving on from that, the other part of this article that irritates me and often gets my dander going is Big D, what does an average firefighter or EMT make in wages?
For discussion purposes, around 45 to 50,000 a year.
Okay.
Isn't it typically middle income, no matter what part of the country you're in? Would that be fair to say that they make middle income?
Yeah.
Most paid fire departments, yeah.
Well, a GoFundMe campaign has been set up to help the family. And I don't know why it disturbs me that whenever somebody suffers a tragedy, they start a GoFundMe account to help with expenses. Am I out of line in feeling that way, or have you ever given that any thought?
I personally never thought about it.
I just think this depends on the circumstances.
Well, it just seems to me that every time there's a tragedy or something, they start a GoFundMe account and expect people from around the country to pay their bills. People don't plan ahead for emergencies, for this type of circumstance. Did they have insurance on the daughter? Did the family have insurance? Things of this nature. Why do people always seem to want to count on other people for those things that they should be responsible for or be pre-planning for? Are we so careless anymore in this country that we have to rely on everybody else to pay our bills?
Well, I think society's different than it was when your era, Bill, and some of my era. I'm 55. I was raised that you always have a savings account.
Yeah.
And just keep adding to your savings account. Well, society has changed that so many people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're spending what they're making. They're not tucking money away to replace an air conditioner if it goes out, to replace a refrigerator if it goes out. They rely on parents to loan them money or get a loan at the bank or something like that. They don't have savings like they used to.
I understand that, but why does... And, okay, if you go to your family and say, look, I need some assistance, can you give me a short loan and help me out here or this or that? But what is, to me, this GoFundMe account, and they've raised over $20,000. Now, what are they going to do with $20,000? The average cost of a funeral today is anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000.
Oh no!
No,
we paid $15 to bury Debbie's brother, and it was a nice funeral, but it was not elaborate.
We had a basic funeral for Lisa's mama. It was $10,000.
I'm telling you, that's the average cost of a funeral today is between $6,000 to $10,000. It can go higher because there are caskets alone that cost $8,000 to $9,000.
I'd see cremation being that cheap.
I'm talking about the average expenses that people pay. If you have a full-blown funeral service, that means you have a visitation, a funeral, and burial. Minimum is around $6,000. That is with minimum services and minimum quality of casket or cremation, things of that nature.
And that doesn't include the burial plot either.
Well, that's true, and opening and closing a grave depending on the location. Out here, we have one cemetery. Their opening and closing is about $1,000 to open a grave and to close it. And so,
But Bill, here's something right here. Now, you were public safety. I was public safety. Big Mama was public safety, and it was something we had to talk about. But boy, try starting a conversation about this subject with the average family and watch the room empty. Agree with that or not, it happens. Most people do not want to talk about this.
Well, I understand that. I fully understand that. But what I'm talking about is the amount of money that people can raise through a GoFundMe account.
Okay.
What do they do with the excess money that they can spend, that they collect in a GoFundMe account?
On a side note with that GoFundMe, the family does not receive that full 20 grand. GoFundMe does take fees out of that.
I understand that.
No, I didn't know that.
Craig, what...
I just used Siri to find out what the average cost is. That's exactly what I asked her. And her response was $7,000 to $10,000.
Bingo!
Yeah.
Don't trust what Uncle Bill says.
I'm amazed.
Oh, I figured he was just verifying you so that our listeners would know that Uncle Bill is right 99.5% of the time.
Thank you.
Well, that's the one time that I was wrong.
And he admits it.
I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken. So.
Well, anyway, I'm going to close off on this article because I don't want to get anybody's dander up. But it just irritates me that many people have, I read, and I'm sure you guys have done, if you do your research like we talk about, I read an awful lot of times where a tragedy has occurred and people immediately start a GoFundMe account, which the generosity of the American people is outstanding. It is unbelievable the amount of money that people are willing to dish out to people they don't even know. Now, that's either extreme Christianity or extreme kindness or extreme concern for your brother or your sister. It just goes to show that the American way is that we always take care of one another. But my sole purpose and question is how many people take advantage of that kindness.
That's true, but in closing, let me just say one thing. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I know that subjects like what Bill and I are talking about here are not the normal, everyday conversations you want to talk about. But Bill is absolutely correct. You cannot go through life and figure if we don't talk about it, it won't happen. Accidents happen every day. And you need to sit down and you need, if not with the family as a whole, you and your spouse need to sit down and say, what if this happens? What if that happens? It's not something we want to think about. It's not something we want to talk about. You don't want to talk about your car breaking down. You don't want to talk about your house burning down, but you buy insurance for that. So
and when you prepay for a funeral, that is nothing more than an insurance policy.
And the thing is, it's one less thing that you have to worry about in a time when you really don't need any extra stress. You've got enough.
Can I be the hard nose of this story?
Sure.
What I commented about the 14-year-old being in charge, that's a big problem in the country. There's no reason that little gal should have been able to take an extension cord. There's two things. She should not have been allowed to take an extension cord into the bathroom, period. There's no reason for it whatsoever. And the second thing, you should never have an extension cord that's got fraying in it. If that 14-year-old wanted to take her phone in the bathroom, that's fine. You take just your phone. You don't take a charger in there. Daddy's got to stand up and say, no, I'm in charge, you're not. But in society today, too many teenagers are in charge.
Well, see, and Craig, in addition to that, and that's the only reason I brought up the firefighter EMT part, is that a firefighter should know the dangers of having a frayed extension cord.
I'm sure he did.
But he didn't do anything about it.
Exactly.
You realize the price of extension cords? Throw it away and get a new one. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of things. I mean, just the carelessness of people and the apathy that people have, or the complacency that people have, it just astounds me.
I know it's hard-nosed, but what pops into my head when I read this story is thinning of the herd.
God, I'm cold, and I'm not even going to go there.
All right, let me move on because we're reaching the top of the hour, and I want to play a video which kind of changed the theme here a little bit, and we're not going to get long, drawn-out conversations about politics because we have other things to talk about as well. But I want to play this one video that I found to be very interesting. It's Liz Wheeler and her tipping point. And the headline on her video for this week for last week, was mainstream media refuses to cover big Trump moment. And here is Miss Liz Wheeler.
Welcome back. One final point before we go tonight. What the mainstream media conveniently forgot to tell you about the news this week. This is one of the things I love to do on this show, show you what really happened. Well, the mainstream media obsessed about a handshake between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, and the New York Times issued an article still trying to link the Trump family to the Russians. This is what really happened this week. How many times did the mainstream media play the video of Trump shaking Putin's hand? How many times did they play the video of Trump showing respect to our military service members?
What's on the video right now is President Trump picking up the hat of one of the military that stood outside of the presidential helicopter. The force of the rotor blades kept
handing a Marine his cover. Yeah, that's what I thought. The mainstream media ignored that. President Trump proudly defended freedom and family values and individual liberty in his speech in Poland. He did not apologize for American exceptionalism, something President Obama did overseas. The mainstream media did everything they could to hide that from you. U.S. doctors offered free hospital care to Charlie Gard, and no high-profile Democrats stood up for the dying baby. Mainstream media didn't see fit to mention that. Congressman Steve Scalise was sent back to the hospital in serious condition after being shot by a radical progressive lunatic at the congressional baseball game and then contracting an infection. I bet Democrats and the mainstream media couldn't even name the shooter anymore. A black female police officer was assassinated on the streets of New York City. Real violence and injustice against a black woman. The Black Lives Matter movement didn't say a word of condemnation, and the mainstream media didn't seem to notice that. A majority of Americans, 6 out of 10 actually, support President Trump's travel ban. This according to a Politico poll. The mainstream media ignored it. Tourism has actually increased in the U.S. since Trump's travel ban was issued. The mainstream media ignored that too. The FBI is investigating Bernie Sanders' wife, Jane, and possibly Bernie himself for potential bank fraud. The mainstream media doesn't care. Chelsea Clinton claims we're all going to die if we don't act on climate change within 3 years. Coincidentally, the same year as the next election. But a peer-reviewed study found that NASA, NOAA, and the British Met Office inaccurately manipulated data to draw that conclusion. The mainstream media didn't even report that. Linda Sarsour, organizer of the Women's March, called for jihad against President Trump.
Stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House.
Nobody on the left, nobody in the so-called resistance, no feminists condemned her. And neither did the mainstream media. Last but not least, under the congressional GOP healthcare plan, there would be no cuts at all. Aid to Medicaid, none. The mainstream media doesn't care to report any of that to you. So we will. And that's my final point tonight. You can reach me on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler. If you liked the show, please send me an email at oann.com/contact. In the meantime, catch us here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, have a good night.
Your comments.
It's the same stuff we've talked about. You're now starting to see, folks. It's being picked up. Uncle Bill and I and Craig and Liz have been saying this for a long time. And now other people are catching on. Other people are pointing this stuff out. At what point do you quit watching CNN, Fox, NBC, MSNBC, or as it's affectionately known anymore, PMSNBC?
Well, basically, there's nothing left.
There are a ton of new news organizations coming out. And if any one of them catches real fire, you could see a replacement of current cable news outlets. Because I go out, I know Bill does, I do, I think Craig does. I go out and I find these other outlets.
Well, the problem is, Big D, you find these other outlets, and for some odd reason, a lot of these outlets refer to other news agencies, which usually are connected with mainstream media, and people really don't take a lot of credence in. And again, like we've said before on this show, that the vast majority of people are now switching over to UK to get a lot of their news, or foreign agencies. And with the advent of the satellites and all that kind of stuff, then people are,
and that's what's hysterical, Bill, because you and I 8 years ago were getting news from over in Europe.
Yeah,
we figured out that we were getting more concise truth from Europe about the U.S. than we were getting from the U.S.
Right.
See, here's Go ahead, Craig.
When Bill sent me a link to this to watch, my response to him was old news. And by what I mean by that is it's old news that the media is ignoring all this good stuff that Trump is doing and coming up with the bad stuff like this this Russia thing that they won't let go. So it's old news, being that like I said, the media just ignores anything positive.
The media today reminds me of an aunt I had. I had a great uncle passed away at age 97. And he'd smoked cigars for as long as anybody could remember. Loved his cigars. And I had an aunt stand at a funeral, and she made the comment, "I told him those cigars were going to kill him." At age 97, it was the cigars that killed him. And that's what the news media today is. They keep going, that if they do accidentally back up and find something, then they can go, "See, we told you.
Same scenario with climate change.
Yeah.
How many people have to, rocket scientists, NASA, other climatologists and so on and so forth, they all say, but mainstream media, they know for sure that climate change is changing the world. Our scientists who discover all the remedies are saying, you know, what did I read the other day?
Here's
there was something in the news about climate that by 2090 they were talking about, oh, I know what it was. It was the heat at airports. They were claiming that the heat on the airport runways is making it difficult for some aircraft to get off the ground, and they're saying by 2090, and this is what really amazed me, by 2090 there are some aircraft that may not be able to fly because of the heat.
But yet
2090.
But yet
70 years, some years from now.
How?
Airplanes, I know there's airplanes. None of the airplanes we have in the air today will fly 70 years from now.
Yeah.
If they're, fact, the airplane as we know it today may not even exist in 50 years.
It's easy to make predictions 90 years out.
Absolutely.
Because who's gonna call you on it? I predict in 90 years that the Vulcans are going to come down and show us how to create warp speed so we can travel and visit Klingons.
See, that's a very valid point, because look at the people that made predictions 35, 40 years ago about global cooling and the oceans being dead and the sea levels flooding the coastal regions. And none of it's happened. But yet, you have to do some real research to find out who made what comment, because nobody remembers. And the media was so quick to jump on this, guys. 2,700 scientists, through consensus, started this global warming mess.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction. By the year 20... I'm just going to go out on a limb and say 2060. Florida will no longer exist.
It'll be underwater.
It's going to be gone, right, because of all the sinkholes.
Yeah. Well, we won't say it won't be here anymore, but it'll be a lot lower. It'll be a downhill drive for most of you going there.
Well, I mean, the way the media made it sound, you know, Florida is the sinkhole capital of the world, and all of Florida is sinking away because all the limestone underneath is washing away and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm going to say by 2060, and anybody can challenge me on this, in the year 2060, you can go back and challenge Uncle Bill's prediction that there is no more Florida. So I'm not going to buy a house in Florida because it ain't going to be there by 2060. Of course, I'm going to be dead, so who cares? But
I was going to say, I'll make a prediction. By 2060, I probably won't give a damn. No, what I was going to say, though, the media jumped on 2,700 scientists through consensus, not fact yet, consensus, jumped on this global warming bandwagon. The media was all over. All we heard, 2,700, 2,700, 2,700. But yet today you've got 3,600 scientists, multiple studies and research papers have come out from prominent universities and private institutions, have come out and said that the facts are wrong. This is not a consensus, it's facts are wrong. And the news media is not saying a word. You can barely get one of these people on TV to be interviewed. And when they are, they spend the entire interview ridiculing these people. They don't even want to hear what they're saying. And like Bill said, even a prediction 20 years from now, people are going to be hard-pressed to remember. Let me ask you guys a question. Who predicted that in 1988 the seas would basically be void of life because we overfish them?
Somebody did. I remember it.
You remember the quote, but who said it?
I don't know.
Ted Dancing from Cheers.
I remember that.
He was all over the news on this one.
Yep.
Here's another one I'm having trouble to remember. Who said that the oceans were going to raise several feet by this time?
Well, yeah, somebody quoted that because of the ice melt.
Only to find out that it was BS. Our ice flows and stuff are bigger today than they were 10 years ago.
There was a story a while back where NOAA, the National Ocean, whatever it's called, they were going up north to document how the glaciers are all melting, so polar bears don't have any place to live. And they got locked in there. It froze. Their icebreaker had to be rescued because of it froze.
And folks, we found out that picture of the polar bear they wanted to rescue because it was going to die, because it was stuck on the floating iceberg. They found out that was fake. Because if you'd have turned 180 degrees around from where they took the picture, he wasn't but about 100 yards offshore. And polar bears are great swimmers.
It's that.
I don't know about all of them, but there was in the news one time where people got caught making the fake ones, like you say, Big D, and their response was something to the effect of, it's okay to fake them if it is showing something that really happens, and it's for good, then it's okay to fake.
Yeah, but since that happened, and since we heard about all the polar bears that were going to die, polar bear numbers have almost doubled. They've been up there doing some serious baby making. And they ain't going to make babies if they can't feed them. They haven't found a carcass yet of a polar bear that starved to death. Folks,
Can't make babies if you're floating on an iceberg by yourself either.
No.
Okay, Miss Liz.
Why, Miss Liz, is that, have you been floating on an iceberg by yourself lately?
Yeah, just like I've been flying planes. Yeah.
It just tickles me that there are people out there and they tell you, oh, you're just a denier. You're not listening to the scientific proof. But yet they don't want to hear the other side.
Well, let me move on just a tad in that same video. She touched on the fact that a black police officer was slain in her car, and no media coverage, no riots, no Black Lives Matter commentary, no anger from the black community, and so on and so forth. Now, I understand that the Black Lives Matter, but I think there should have been an outrage from the black community in general, because, well, it just makes sense, right?
Nope.
I mean,
I can tell you exactly why they didn't say anything. Because they have already come out and said that black officers who work in law enforcement are not really black people.
And they're traitors, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How many shootings you have in Chicago over the weekend, Bill?
I don't know this weekend. I haven't seen any stories.
Not one word about it from Black Lives Matter.
Nope.
And here's the other interesting point that I find. Have you ever noticed there's a lot of complaining about things, but nobody's ever coming up with any answers?
Nope. Especially our leaders.
Well, I'm not worried. They've never come up with any answers.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about all these special interest groups coming up with all these beefs, complaints, but nothing to replace it.
That's because 90% of them don't even know what they're protesting.
That's it.
So.
Don't believe us? Go to YouTube and check out some of these videos. You will laugh your behind off. They sound like 8-year-olds trying to explain why they're throwing a temper tantrum.
Well, just like, the video I played last week of the rally that was being held, and that young man was on the megaphone making all these capitalistic statements and so on and so forth.
Yep.
I found out that was a setup. That this they started this demonstration or rally, and they put this young man on a megaphone giving actual documented written statements that Adolf Hitler gave while he was running his regime.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in the audience were applauding and clapping.
But yet
they had no clue that these were capitalistic, socialistic, totalitarianism and whatever, communist.
Fascist.
They were just anti-American, so we were happy to clap for this young man who was so knowledgeable.
And see, here's another point I brought up years ago. Have you noticed it started in our schools? Guys, think about this. No longer, and this started several years ago, no longer do we want students in our schools that excel and bring the slower students up. Now we want to drag all of our students down to the lowest level. Why? So somebody doesn't get hurt feelings. Well, look at what they're trying to do in life. Like this young man, that the video we played here on the show last week. Do I want to live in government housing, get my food from a government store, be told what menial job I have to take, just so some other people can feel good about themselves or not feel as bad about their situation as they do? Is that what they want me to do? Is that what they're telling me to do?
Well, there is a point to some of that, in that, like, take Obamacare, for example. How long do you think Obamacare would exist if the politicians had to live under the same Medicare or same Obamacare program or Social Security? What about Social Security? Do you think we would have the problems in Social Security if the government had to rely on their retirement from Social Security?
Oh, no.
And see, and this is the same thing, with all these other socialist states and so forth, where they have government